Welcome back and welcome to my June wrap up. In case you haven't seen it, I have already posted my July TBR, so I will leave that linked up here. And I also have posted my wrap up from my summerathon, which a lot of these books do come from. So there we go. I struggled to find reading time this month. I really struggled to find reading time. For the first week of the month we were away, and then from then on I went from working only afternoons to working full days, including some overnight. So yeah, struggled to find some reading time at all, because even when I was in the car there was other people in the car, so I couldn't listen to my audiobooks. Anyway, that being said, I did manage to read some of the books that were on my June TBR. I think I made quite a good dent in some of them. Anyway, the first couple of books we read whilst we were on the road trip, and we did them as audiobooks. The first one I know we have a copy of and I cannot find it for the life of me, so I've given up. And that is Dreams from My Father, which is Barack Obama, and it is read by the author as well. So that was really interesting. It wasn't everything I was expecting it to be, but it was really good. And I think it definitely gave us food for thought as well whilst we were listening to it. Then the second one was also an audiobook that we listened to on the road trip, but I do have a physical copy of, and this is Made in America by Bill Bryson. This was one of the only ones by Bill Bryson that I haven't read yet. I think I've read everything else. I'm excited because he has a new one coming out in I think October, so I'm looking forward to getting that one. I will probably pre-order it on audiobook, but I'm hoping that he might be doing a tour with it, because I was lucky enough to go and see him when he released his One Summer America in 1920 whatever it was, and it was really interesting to hear speak. So if he did a tour with it anywhere near where I am right now, that would be really cool. But this was really interesting, going from British English to American English as somebody who is British and now lives in America. Very interesting. And I love all the stuff to do with etymology of words and place names and personal names in particular, so that was really interesting. Then a couple that I read on my Kindle that I loved, both of these. The first one was The Paper and Heart Spciety. This is the first book in a new series by an awesome booktuber, Lucy Powrie. I'm so jealous of her awesome writing and the concept of her book, because she's so young but she's so amazing, and I've been watching her booktube videos for as long as she has been making them. I will leave her channel linked below so you can go and watch her wonderful, joyful videos, and I really recommend this book series if you could get your hands on it as well. If you're a book lover, you will just adore this, because it's just basically a love letter to books and reading and the power of reading. And it also has great LGBTQ plus representation in it as well. Absolutely fantastic. Then Half a World Away by Gayle, which I also read on my Kindle, which I spent the last 15 to 20% of just sobbing, absolutely sobbing, but in like a really good way. You know, when you're sobbing because yes, there's sad things in the book, but also it's written and described so well and you're so invested in these characters, and so that's why you get more and more upset. I love Gayle. Again, I have always loved Gayle. He is an auto-buy author for me. I really recommend his new one. His book last year that he that came out, I just adored as well. It's like he's just gone to a whole new level now. His books before were really good, but his writing now is just amazing. Then another book I actually have a copy of, well, I have a proof copy of, and that is Mrs. Everything by Jennifer Weiner. By the time you're watching this, I will have a review up on my blog. I loved this book. I ended up pre-ordering the audiobook because I thought I might be able to get to listen to more of the audiobook than I would be able to read the physical book, because it is a chunky one. It is a long book. It's nearly 500 pages, and it just blew me away. It was absolutely fantastic. It felt a lot like Little Women, and the characters were called Jo and Bethy, so I don't know how intentional that was, but the audiobook was done really well because it had two different narrators for Joe and for Bethy, and it took us through the time period really well as well. I was able to find out where I was in the book because the chapters had the different years on, and this book begins in oh my goodness, when does it begin? 1956, I want to say, and ends in it begins in 1951 and ends in next year, 2022. So this spans a whole lifetime of these two sisters, and it spans everything that happens to them. And this book also has really good LGBTQ plus representation as well, which you don't find as much of in adult fiction. So well done, Jennifer Weiner, for making it not just, oh, here's one gay character. It was part of the book. So really, really recommend this one as well, and really recommend the audiobook. It was very good as an audiobook. Then another one that I did on audiobook that I was part of the blog tour for, so I have a review of this one on my blog, and I read this one as part of the summerathon as well, and that is A Random Act of Kindness by Sophie Jenkins. The main character in this one has a clothing stall in Camden Market and loves vintage clothing and loves working in the market, and then she does a random act of kindness, and we see the fallout from that and the things that she perceives to be the fallout from that as well. And it was just a nice story. If you like fashion, you will definitely like this one. I think this author obviously has some sort of background in fashion or has a passion for fashion. There's a lot of interesting detail about clothing and how clothing can make you feel, as well as the whole random act of kindness thing. Then a buddy read that I did with my friend Jenna, and I have already posted a book versus movie on this one, so I will link that up above so you can go ahead and watch that. And that is The Darkest Minds by Alexandra Bracken. This, I believe, was her debut novel, and is science fiction, and I would say dystopian, a little bit of fantasy mixed in there, which, as you know, is not normally my thing. This is not normally something that I read a lot of. And again, this book was just shy of 500 pages, so it was a big investment for me, going in thinking I wasn't really going to like it, but I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. You need to go and watch the video to see what I thought of how the book compares to the film, because yeah, I didn't think it did very well. But yeah, I'm glad I read it. I won't be carrying on with the series. I'm not going to read the whole trilogy. However, a few people have recommended Passenger to me by Alex Bracken, and so I might consider picking that up at some point in the future. It's not going to be on any immediate TBRs, but you know, I enjoyed this one more than I thought, so I might like that one more than I thought as well. And then on my Kindle, I read Those People by Louise Candlish. You will know that I absolutely loved Our House by Louise Candlish last year. It won like the Waterstones Book of the Year prize. It has been doing amazingly well. And Those People obviously is her follow-up, which is always going to be like a difficult thing with something that's been so well received. But I absolutely loved it. I was desperately trying to get to the end and find out what happened, because I literally didn't know how it was going to end until I actually got there. I was really struggling to find the time to actually sit down and read and invest in it. And yeah, half of the book takes place before something happens and is a multiple narrative, as well as some police interviews about a crime that has taken place. And then the second half of the book takes place after the incident has happened. So we have a little bit of like the before and the after, but you really don't know how it's all going to end up for everyone and what happened exactly with the incident until you get to the very end, literally the very end. It kept me guessing the whole way through. And whew, yeah, the things that can happen when you have a neighbour that you don't get on with. Oh my goodness. Then I also listened to The Glittering Hour by Iona Gray. I just literally finished listening to that one. I wanted to read this one in May, and I just didn't manage to get round to it in time. I feel like I started it whilst it was still May, and I finished it today on the 30th of June. So yeah, I read it in a few big chunks, but this one, it was heartbreaking in some ways, but refreshing in others. It takes place in London, and I loved hearing about the different places that they were in London, about the different areas that they were and the names of the streets and stuff. That was really cool. But it's historical fiction with an emphasis on feminist women and women who know their own mind and don't want to go down the path that has been designated for them, and how they can do that, and what happens if they do and what happens if they don't, and lost love, and just illness and domestic servants, and just it kind of covers a bit of everything, and it was just a really good read. It goes into real depth, and the writing is beautiful. Iona has beautiful writing. Her first novel absolutely blew me away, and this one was lovely too. And then finally I read Hotdog Girl by Jennifer Dugan. I just love this one. It was exactly what I needed to read at the time. It takes place during summer vacation at a theme park, and it was just so much fun. This also has really great LGBTQ plus representation. There are worse things in the world than being a hot dog, probably. Yeah, I'm not going to say any more about it, but basically these characters that are on the front are all linked together in different ways. And it's just, yeah, it was just really good fun. I really recommend it. It's such a good story. You'll get invested, but it's not a difficult read. It's a real page turner and just really good fun. The first few pages made me laugh out loud loads, and there was lots of other laughs throughout the book as well. Really recommend. Especially if, like me, you are reading it whilst the kids are on summer vacation as well, because it's the perfect time to read it. So, that's all the books that I read in the month of June. I probably had way more on my TBR, although I tried really hard to keep my TBR loose so that I could pick up what I wanted to. The summer-a-thon coming along at the end of the month was a really good thing for me, so if you haven't watched that video, make sure you check that out. And yeah, I'm hoping to get more read in July. I have lots of books that I'm excited about. I've already put that TBR together, and then we have the reading rush at the end of July as well, and it comes along at a time when I'm hopefully going to be able to get some more reading done too. So fingers crossed I read a little bit more in July than I did in June. This time last year I was already at my original Goodreads goal, and I'm not quite there yet, and I'm like, oh, but I'm working this year where I wasn't by the time I got to June last year. So there's the difference. There's a massive difference. Let me know in the comments your favourite book that you read in the month of June, or else what you're looking forward to reading next. I will be back with another movie reviews video for you, and then I have a couple of tag videos coming up as well, and perhaps a little book haul, so make sure you subscribe so that lands in your subscription feed, and I will see you with my next video soon. Bye.